Welcome to my most favorite part of the day where I talk to Batavia about gardening for hours and hours on end. And thank you for joining us on the Backyard Gardens podcast.
To have a good harvest, one must plant good seeds and must also use the right kind of fertilizer. The carrots have grown large and firm. How good they will taste.
Welcome to the Backyard Gardens podcast, where we talk about all things gardening and give the information out for you to be successful in your garden, whether it's your first or your last. We are your hosts, Ben, the backyard gardener, and
Batavia, the front yard gardener.
one in the country,
One in the city.
Now get ready as we dig deep into this wonderful world of gardening as we learn to grow and grow for change. Was that melancholy enough for you?
It was, man. You have a voice for well,
For what?
you have a voice for speaking.
Well, that's good because I do a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to do a garden update for you guys. And I know we took a break for a while and it seems like we're rapid firing them, but there's like so much changing right now in our gardens and we're getting into a different season.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about catastrophes today, just so you guys know. So
Is this
pull
update
up
going?
your-
Is
your,
it going to be just about me then? Is that what you're saying? Me and my garden?
No, it's going to be about me. I have so much stuff to say.
yeah.
I don't even, we're going to have to break this up into like 15 episodes probably. So everybody, pull up your gardening boots. Go ahead and get your overalls on, but don't cut them short like I did because it's rather embarrassing.
My favorite.
And get ready. It would be your favorite. Anything that embarrasses me is your favorite.
No, it's not that. But I mean, that's like Oscar award winning podcast storying.
That's like next level embarrassment. So
so
if anybody
good.
is a new listener, the story briefly is I had a pair of overalls and I thought they were hot, so I cut them into short overalls, and they got a little short over time. And I'll just leave it at that. So
Wait, did you think they were hot as in like it's the cool thing, it's the trend? Or did you
No,
think they
it
were
was
hot like it was too
literally-
hot?
it's hot as fish grease. It's just hot.
I'm just going to
wearing them,
adjust
so-
my settings here. Don't mind me.
Oh, don't worry, I won't. I never do. But we thank you guys before we get started for everybody for sharing with your friends and all that stuff. We've grown a lot and we're just thankful that we are helping new people out.
Absolutely.
And keep telling your friends, man, and tell your friends to tell their friends. Let's get this thing going, man. We're a little bit different kind of show, if you know what I'm saying. So I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. But so what's up with your garden, Batavia? Before I just divulge everything and open my interpersonal feelings to the world.
Your interpersonal feelings. All in all, I think I was writing to someone where I was just like, I am planting so many things because I need to go to the win column when I continue to have, L's in the lost column. So I'm struggling with just like really targeted pests with some plants. But my harvests are starting to come in and they're plentiful. So now it's the transition to, what do you do with all of this? I'm stuffed right now because this is me. You hear that? That's me rubbing on my belly. I'm stuffed right now because I'm trying to power through the last pot of the last couple of servings of the collard greens that I made last week. So yeah, I did Southern style collard greens, cornbread, tucked a few jalapeno peppers in that cornbread. So yeah, that's
So wait. What's Southern style collard greens? Is there any other way to have collards?
Yeah, there's some definitely really good frou-frou ways to have them. Like you could use the leaves for collard green wraps. You can do more like a sautéed collard greens, like on like kind of skillet fried. You could juice collard greens, which I just was reminded of that. Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff you can do with them.
Yeah, I've juiced them before.
Yeah.
Yeah, they taste like ass juice.
Yeah.
So don't juice them. They're awful. But so when you make them Southern, what do you put in them?
So for me, it's starting with water, and you can make this vegetarian if you want, but I start with smoked turkey legs and I don't know, about 3 or 4 quarts of water. I boil that for about an hour, and then add a little bit of butter along the way, just a dab, a little bit of oil. And then I do seasoning with garlic powder, salt and pepper. Depending on if I'm sharing, I'll put in some crushed red pepper flakes if I'm not going to share them. But if I'm going to share them with others, then I won't go with that. Just, trying to mind some people don't like the spice. So once that smoked turkey legs, once they've boiled for a bit, I've already washed. And boy, if you talk about, well, I'll come back to that. So wash the greens, cut them up, kind of in slivers, if you will. And then stuff them into that pot, and they just cook until you boil all of that nutrition right on up out of them, right into the pot liquor,
That's the only way to do it. So you use smoked turkey legs.
Yeah, smoked turkey legs. Some people use neck bones and things.
We use fatback down here.
Ah, okay. Yeah, I can see that.
Fatback.
Yeah.
So
some people add a bit of bacon to it as well.
Same-ish thing, same-ish.
Yeah.
That's North Carolina though. We have a lot of pig farms, so we do everything has pork in it.
Yeah.
But so as a vegetarian, a pesco ovo vegetarian, and a person who grew up in North Carolina who particularly loves pork more than your average human being, it is very difficult at times. But I don't prefer the smell of collards cooking. I will say that.
That's interesting.
It's offensive to me. I will have to say.
I mean, sans the meat, just generally, you don't like the smell of it. My best girlfriend.
No, it's the meat.
Oh, okay.
It's the meat, and I've never, even when I was eating as much as I possibly could of pork, it's always been offensive smell to me.
Yeah, my best girlfriend though, she doesn't like the smell of collards, period, because there is a smell to them once you cook them, and you're it's not necessarily a boil. I don't want to imply that I'm boiling them, because it's they're simmering probably on medium to low heat for somewhere around an hour or so. That's why I say you kind of cook all that, all the nutrition on up out of them.
Yeah.
But she didn't like the smell of the greens, and it's funny because it's definitely, I hear you with the meat part, because I opened my refrigerator the next day and I was like, oh wait, there's almost, is there something spoiled in here? It's like, oh no, it's that greatness,
That's how it's supposed to be though. If it stinks, it's done right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I've been eating them for breakfast, as that's how I roll.
Because look, shout out to Batavia. She don't give a damn about eating rules. She eats what she wants for whatever meal she wants, and I respect that.
Absolutely.
So, shout out to.
So 2 notes. One, for eating whatever I want. I finally got the early scallop squash. It was that kind of, it's like a patty pan squash. So it looks, but it's white. And it was kind of like, oh, that's cool. So I finally got one off of the vine. And speaking of, don't ask. So around 1:30 a.m., I was up cleaning the kitchen. And so I said, you know what? It'll be another handful of hours before I actually, get back up and eat something. So I'm going to go ahead and snack a bit. So I put them in the oven, slice them up. I'm giving all kinds of recipes out. Slice them up, and then used olive oil. I'll probably use too much oil in everything, but olive oil. I think I did some minced garlic, salt and pepper. Some traditional seasonings, and I baked it on 425. And then I broiled it for the last couple of minutes, because I like anything that has golden crisp around it. And I don't know if I am just suffering from one of the problems being all the squash vine borer, and I'm just getting so few squash plants, that this was the best thing since sliced bread. It was so good.
It's probably a little bit of both, and it's probably the fact that it was 1:30 in the morning that made it just a little bit better.
Could be.
So the squash vine borer has just totally ravaged you.
Yeah. So I'm
convinced that you shipped it down here.
Yeah.
As a bioweapon to my garden. I think that's just what you did, and I'm very upset with you.
Well, Instagram will say that I shipped it like everywhere, so
It's been really bad this year.
Yeah, I'm thinking like, let's see, 1, 2, like maybe 3 plants have completely like just lost. Like they're in the trash, they're in some, dump somewhere in Chicago. And then there's 2 more that are still like trying to hold on. And it's just, I haven't called the time of death on them.
The coroner needs to know.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'm going to have to actually pull them because now I'm getting to the point where let me log out of here. I'm getting to the point where I am starting to like use those containers for something else, or I'm going to. So yeah, their time is up, But what are you going to do?
Yeah, the vine borer has, he's nailed me, and I've dropped bombs on the podcast about that, so I'm not going to harp about him today.
But I do have, late breaking news, I do have, by the time this airs, though, the way this thing is going, as of today, I have 2 new zucchini plants. So remember, the first attack was on the zucchini plant that I had in a container. And then it took out the next zucchini plant that I have. So I was left like, it's been probably a month since I've actually had any zucchini, which sucks because now that I have tomatoes, one of my favorite recipes includes zucchini, yada, yada, yada. And I dropped more seeds whenever that happened. So I think I have a couple of plants that are like 3 to 4 weeks old. At this point, dude, I'm just like, if I can get 1 or 2 squash off the plant, then I'm going to roll with it. Like, it's too late in the season. You know how I feel about intervention as a whole. I'm not spraying. I'm not wrapping aluminum foil. I'm not making a baked potato out of, my plants. No, I'm not doing any of that.
I'm with you. Okay, so my wild butternut squash that I have growing is just, it won't stop producing. So I'm having like the best year combined of all the years I've gardened, all the 15 years that I've been gardening, all into one. Like I've gotten more butternut squash than, you could imagine. And they're still coming. So that's great. But like everyone that I planted, a big poo-poo. Yeah. So I'm not really hung up on it. I really was holding on because I was like, I want one that I did to just make it. You know what I mean? But it gets attacked left and right. So I'm actually, when we're done here, I'm going to go out and pull the rest of mine and just let that one keep going. Because quite honestly, I don't even eat that much butternut squash. So we're probably going to be canning a couple more rounds of it. So do you want me to talk about my tomatoes?
Well, first, do you hear that? Those are the wind chimes that are on my back porch. And I'm at the point now, I'm like on the other side of the house, and it's not a huge house, but I'm wondering, because it's starting to become less peaceful and more like, really? So I'm wondering if my neighbor, like 4:30 this morning, I get off the couch. This is the hint of, why I'm sometimes up at 2:00 in the morning, cooking squash. So I get off the couch where I've fallen asleep, climb the stairs. If I ever have another house, it will not be more than 1 floor. I'm going ranch style, baby. I will not climb stairs. Right. But I climbed the stairs. I got in bed 4:00 in the morning, and all I hear is the beautiful sound of wind chimes. And I'm like, if I can hear them from my bedroom window, the neighbors on either side of me can as well. So,
What are you doing in your bedroom?
Asleep.
You don't ever sleep in your bedroom.
That's the point. I got 2 hours of sleep in my bedroom this morning.
Your bed was probably like, what the hell?
I know, right? Yeah.
I like the way you looked at me like I was totally an idiot when I said that.
No. It's years and years and years ago.
I know more about you than you think you know.
Well, I talk a lot, and sometimes I forget that people listen, right? So years and years ago, I was probably in my early 20s, and one of the ladies I worked with, we were just talking randomly, and she said, she was looking for new furniture, and she just said, it's just been too many asses on this couch, like I need to replace it. And now I'm kind of feeling like, there's been too much of Batavia's ass on this couch, like it's a deep sitting couch. And I'm talking about like
Oh.
Yeah. Bury me in it, man. It's like the most comfortable.
Seriously, just to get off topic for a second.
Further
who sits on a couch?
Yeah.
Who sits on a couch? I straight lay on a couch.
Yeah. I think, though, we may be the only two. Like, I feel like when I went before this pandemic started, I was actually shopping for a new sofa, a new couch. And I literally had my tape measurer because I was trying to measure the seat depth. Like, because I mean, if you get 28, 29 inches, you can sit comfortably, but you can't toss and turn if you're sleeping there all night. So again, that's kind of how clearly I've been rolling for the last handful of years. And I can either break that and really get in the bed every night, or I can get a replacement couch that has like 32 inches of depth. So we'll see.
Go for 48. Call it a bed.
It's like a day bed couch. Yeah.
So let me tell you what happened to me. Let me set the stage.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we're going to go back to gardening. Okay. Yeah. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We're going to go back to the reason why we're actually here. I'm going to change it. Mm-hmm. So a couple weeks ago, I walk outside and my leaves on my tomato plants are starting to turn a little bit yellow. I'm like, okay. And a lot of times what happens is the lower leaves will turn yellow just because they get shaded out. Mm-hmm. So I was like, damn, okay. I keep watching it. Stays about the same, right? We get 2 days of pretty good rain. Hadn't rained in like a month. Get like 2 days of pretty good rain. And I walk outside, what was it? Sunday morning, and I look and the entire plant is yellow. And I'm like, WTF? Like what happened? And I have septoria leaf spot, which is basically a blight, from what I understand. So, and Batavia this is not privy information to her because I called her whining about it.
What time did you call me whining about it?
7 a.m. Because I knew you'd be up.
I was taking the second round of squash out of the oven. No, I'm joking.
Yeah. So I went out there and I went to town removing everything because I had to make a tough decision.
Yeah.
What do? Do I replant? Like technically, and Batavia stepped up to the plate on this one. Is do I replant now? Because technically I can replant. I have. What do I have? 70 some odd days until my first probably frost, maybe frost. And, I went to the store and I was looking at them and you can get some pretty good sized seedlings. I wouldn't even call them seedlings. I call them plants.
Yeah.
But then, I was talking to Batavia and we both kind of came to a decision and it was like, if you time it out, you'll be getting your first tomato by the first frost. That's not it doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
So I went to town and I trimmed the crap out of them. I took everything disease off of it and I got a copper is it fungi or fungicide?
Fungicide is the way I would say
fungicide?
Mm-hmm.
I got
it could be any number of things, though. Yeah.
Yeah. It's an organic fungicide, but I got it and I sprayed it. So you're supposed to let it dry for 12 hours. Guess what happened 8 hours later?
Of course it rained.
Rained like hell. So then I had to go back out there and respray. Yeah. And I'm going to spray every 10 days, 7 days because it's bad.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that I get some growth back. You know what I mean? Because it's like this awkward time in my garden where nothing really changes. It's like, it's too hot. It's getting cool, but it's still too hot. So like, what do you do? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, what's the end goal here? Do we just destroy it, or how do you manage it? So
yeah,
we'll see. You know what I mean?
One of my questions was, for Ben was how many tomatoes had he gotten? Had he gotten enough of tomatoes for the season to feel good about pulling the plant if that's the direction we were going to head in?
Yeah.
And I think in mid-August, well, no. It's not, you're not really at a place where you're saying, yeah, I can be done with tomatoes. So,
because I got a solid month and a half of tomatoes to come. You know what I mean?
Yeah, still, yeah.
So I went into some deep thought. I know where this came from.
I may have some counter information too. I meant to get it to you before this
You
episode.
may.
Yeah, I may.
Nah, that's no fun. Then there's no argument, so it's no fun. So I think it's because of the square foot gardening technique that I use. To be honest, I really do. I think that's kind of what spurred it to kind of go on because, man, stuff just gets crammed in there like that. I don't like it. I do not like it. And that's my verdict. I don't like it. So I know you have something counter. So
well, it's a concept, and I actually have the Square Foot Garden book, and I hope that I'm not right because then I'm going to feel guilty about not looking this up and sharing it with you before you started this. But I was watching some other video, and another gardener mentioned, and this is probably a video that's a couple of years old even, another gardener mentioned square foot gardening, and specifically the goal. She said, I was doing square foot gardening, but I wasn't pruning like recommended with square foot gardening.
yes.
Right. And so I meant, but you know what time it was though? It was as I was waiting for the squash to get done. So it was like 1:45.
Right.
And I was in the middle of like cleaning and about to eat, so I didn't stop to look at the book to go back and track that back. And so I was literally thinking to myself, oh, I have to ask Ben if he was like actively pruning, in the bed he was using
Right.
the square foot gardening. So that's the question.
So
for
let
you.
me go there for you.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I don't like square foot gardening because I don't want to go out there and prune consistently.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? It's way too involved.
Yeah.
It's too much, man. It's too much. It's
Well, you know what?
You get gun shy at a certain point. You're like, damn. So
For me, that's the exact reaction that I have when it comes to treating things, right? So I would be with that same game plan if I were in your shoes with the tomatoes, because how I feel about tomatoes in general, but I would make the move. But that's like, it's plant specific, the actions I'm going to take. Like when my tomato plant, one of the container tomato plants had blossom end rot, I was in there shaking calcium all over the place, so, it's the what's worth it. But I don't want the squash
Did
plants.
it help?
Like,
Did the calcium help?
you know what? Interestingly enough, at first I didn't think so because I probably had a dozen tomatoes that continued to have blossom end rot, like, from green to red. But now I was looking and it seems consistent that the ripening tomatoes do not have it. So I think I treated it enough, But other things like the squash, I think in squash is so freaking easy to grow. Like put another seed in a pot and, see what happens. So that's kind of where I am when it comes to your comparison and not really want to go through the whole pruning effort with square foot gardening. That really, I guess, is recommended. I feel that way when it comes to treating plants and things, which is a whole, we could go, what's this, like telethon garden update? Because we can go a number of hours when it comes to this. I have so much to share on that note, but. Yeah.
Well, it goes against what I believe to be consistently pruning a plant. Okay. So every time you prune it, you weaken it for a short amount of time and it slows its growth down. Right. So I go out and I definitely prune my stuff, but I prune and then I don't prune and then I prune and then I don't prune, but this is like, you'd have to consistently be out there to ensure that you get this. And, it's like tomatoes and peppers are companion plants. Okay. I believe that wholeheartedly. I grow them together for that reason. And as I put them in the bed, all of a sudden you start losing all of the space.
Yeah.
Right. So I go through and I look at the peppers and they need a square foot. So I leave them spaced out. But then the tomatoes, they say you need 2 square foot per tomato. So I put in the tomatoes at 2 square feet. Am I correct or am I wrong?
I think it's 2. I've been meaning to look that up, but again, it was 1:30 in the morning. That was my second thought. I said, well, I remember we talked about 2 square feet, but is it really 3? But go on.
I've seen 2 to 2.5. So my bed is 8 feet long. So I gave it 2. But it just didn't work. You know what I mean? It didn't work. So that being said, at this point, I'm not completely poo-pooing it, but I believe in a lot of things in gardening too. It's okay to use like a hybrid type methodology to your spacing and stuff. And that's kind of where I'm going with this. So,
so just to clarify,
Yeah.
the, and I'm not a fan of pruning, and I'll circle back around when it comes to my single stemming, but there probably wasn't enough circulation because the plants were
for sure.
in, right? That's what we were talking about.
Yeah.
And had you pruned like continually, perhaps that would have given, those plants enough space to have that air move around. But part of your concern is it could introduce something else, like we were talking about, sun scald as an example. You mentioned just in this conversation, there's an injury to that plant with every cut,
Right.
And it has to repair
think about
itself.
what I did to it. I literally went Michael Myers on it.
Yeah.
Like I just started slashing. So
I think that's more like
but
Freddy Krueger, though. I think
that's about the same, really. But you slash it, and then now I just let it grow. You know what I mean? And what precipitated all of this was the hurricane. Because when the hurricane comes, you get like 2 days beforehand of just like 100% humidity and hot.
Yeah.
And then you get the hurricane and you get like a day or two of that. And then afterwards it gets really dry, but then it's summertime. So we're kind of in this like loop of just like pure humidity. So that's kind of what really, cause that's when I noticed it, as right after the hurricane, I noticed it. And I was like, well, maybe, it got damaged from the wind or something. And it was too late at that point.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting. You know what I mean? And I just don't believe in the trimming like that. I don't like it, and I'm not willing to do it. One thing that I have realized is if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And damn it, it wasn't broke.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like my method was working for many years. So basically I got greedy and was like, I need to get more. And if you want more, you make another garden.
Yeah.
Bed. You know what I mean? So,
well, I mean, I think, I'm all for trying a new thing. And I think that, I don't know if it's for you worth like giving it another try, especially if we already know one of the components, one of the pieces would be, pruning. And I'm all for the whole, if that's not what you want to do, that's not what you want to do. Move on or move back to the next thing. So it's probably working for millions of people, square foot gardening is. And for others, not so much. So for me, while I use that as a path, right? I start with the format of square foot gardening. But I'm not stuck on it, right? I'm not religious about it. But just as a quick note, this could have been like 3 garden updates ago. I think I did the single stemming and pruning the tomato plants. So remember I had every plant that I planted that I had 2 of for tomatoes. I had one that I was growing traditionally, if you will, and then another that I was going to do the single stem method. And I've known for years that I really don't have the discipline. I don't have the #garden discipline for it. But I thought, well, what if I could get, look, a little bit of greed, so many tomatoes, and meaning so many, like enough, that I can plant more varieties of tomatoes, right? And it lasted for probably a good 2 weeks. Like, I just, I don't have an interest in climbing in the cage, baby, and cutting away leaves over and over again, especially now when I'm starting to get a gauge on how many tomatoes I'm really getting. The biggest thing that I'll miss out on is being limited to the amount of varieties I can plant. Right. So I'll have to be very thoughtful in the coming years. I won't put pressure on myself for next year, but what am I going to do with these tomatoes? Because if I have, what did we say last time? Like 15 tomatoes or something like that? 12, 13, 15 tomato plants? Like that could technically be at least 8 or 9 different varieties if I wanted it to. So, and I have an interest in growing different types of tomatoes because different types of tomatoes taste differently, and I'm a tomato lover. But anywho, so I'm not a pruner either. I hate it. I only do it out of pure necessity. I do trim and prune the bottom leaves to avoid, kind of splash up, to try to keep the plant healthy. But once you do that in the first couple of weeks, for me, I don't really have to go back around. Maybe it's probably the first month or so, I should say.
Right.
But that's like a project. It's a mission. I'm going at it, and then that's it. I don't have to worry about it anymore. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm rooting for, because it was 2 plants, right? 2 tomato plants?
8.
Oh.
All of them. Every single one. 8 plants.
I'm not going to cry for you because it's not over.
Don't.
It's not over.
Don't cry.
Oh, no. There could be tears. Like, yeah, that's serious. Yeah.
No, I don't give a shit if they die, because I'm having another issue with them anyways.
Wait, what's the other issue?
So the issue is, I want to transition into a fall garden. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So a lot of the things that go into a fall garden are combative with tomatoes. Mm-hmm. Well, I have 2 beds that are filled up with tomatoes. So I can't, I can, but I feel like knowing that they're not friends at all, mm-hmm. that if I put them in there, I think it would cause more of an issue. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I'm not really willing to do that. So it's like, in a sense, I'm kind of rooting. I'm like, yeah, go ahead and die, you son of a bitch. Go ahead and die. You know what I mean? Because at this point, it's like, it's hindering me. Yeah. So, and it's come to a point where it's like, everything has been like, all the planning and stuff was really good for me this year. Like, I planned everything out. I had everything laid out. I mostly stuck to the plan. And now that it's time to transition, it's like, hold up. This ain't working like I thought it would. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, because there's other things that I'm having issues with too. So like, my cucumbers, for instance, I got pickleworm. Never had pickleworm before. To be honest, I didn't even know what a pickleworm was. Never even I've never heard of it,
but it's freaking me out.
Pickleworm, apparently, once you get it, you can't get rid of it. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of like, at this point, I'm like holding on, because here's a silver lining behind all of this. Okay. And you remember after the hurricane, everybody was like commenting on Instagram, like, you have such a positive attitude. Mm. Good job. And it's like, I trimmed these tomatoes back hard. Yeah, right? There's almost no leaves on some of them. So when they're pruned back like that, the trellis behind it, I put peas in. Oh, now the peas can get sun.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So so they're coming up now. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to give them about a week. And then where the cucumbers are, cut it out. You know what I mean? And then I'll just put more peas in. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, it sucks. Like, it sucks that I'm not going to get probably any cucumbers this year. Mm-hmm. And I just did not know. And this is why, like I say, I don't think you can be an expert at gardening. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because after 15 years of gardening every year, I had never even heard of a pickleworm. Yeah. You know what I mean? But I see them. I have them in some of my squashes have them. But the big one doesn't have it at all. Like, what the hell?
I was commenting on another gardener's page that tagged me in it, and it was around not giving himself enough space and his harvest, suffering because of it. And, my comment was something along the lines of like, I am now chanting, it's my garden affirmation, every harvest from the garden is a good harvest, right? Put it on a shirt, pin it. Because you look at something like that, that squash, it's like the butternut squash is my eggplant story. Now it's different because obviously that was a volunteer and, I planted 1 million eggplants, but it's like, all right, make the best of it, make the most of it.
But it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? And if you break down my garden monetarily about what I'm getting out of it, this is the most successful garden I've ever had because of this butternut squash. Right? So if you think about it though, like you go to the store and you buy one butternut squash for what, $5?
Absolutely.
And I've got like 20 butternut squash and I've got like 10 more growing. I mean, my God, what else can I ask for?
Yeah, man.
So I mean, it's hit or miss sometimes.
Yeah.
And this has been the hardest year for my garden. So, it's the first year I hadn't gotten any eggplants.
Oh, yeah.
But
wait,
then
what,
you flip.
has there been any recovery for those plants?
Actually, I just pulled off a, basically the wimpiest eggplant you could ever imagine.
Yeah.
But I'm leaving it in there for a purpose. So I'm leaving it in there until it cools off so I can put something else in the place. And I'm leaving it in there purely so the roots will continue to work the soil because the roots actually feed the soil when they're in there. So I'm allowing it to kind of do its thing. And in the hopes of, maybe I'll get one. But this is the first year that I haven't gotten a single eggplant and a single cucumber ever. So
yeah, that's and I mean cucumbers. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I was to say, that being said, it is what it is, man. I still got fall, and I've got some rutabagas coming up now. Never planted rutabagas, so I just saw that the seeds finally started popping. So I'm stoked about that. I got to go put some borax in the soil because apparently they're real sensitive to borax. So you just sprinkle a little bit in.
Yeah, I've read something along those lines.
Yeah, but there is a definite soil test in my future. So we're going to be taking samples and sending them off to get tested, which you can do at your extension service. So I believe that it's time. I've got calcium deficiencies in my wild garden. 2 years in a row I've gotten blossom end rot, so that's definitely an issue.
Yeah, what plants is it setting in on out there?
My melons get it.
Okay.
So, but if I get that, and I've talked about it on Instagram, didn't know the name of it. It's called a yield booster spray.
Okay.
And you basically spray the leaves with it. It's calcium, and it'll go away. So, like the big butternut squash I had, I was getting a bunch of them, all of them blossom end rot. I cut them all off, sprayed it. 20 squashes later, no blossom end rot. So
yeah, that's cool.
Just got 3 last night. Like I go outside, look at my tomato plants. I'm like, damn it. Walk over there. I'm like, sweet, 3 more squash. So, yeah, it is what it is, man.
I think the squash, when you mentioned that, we can have all of the plans we want. I'm not saying go out and just plant stuff without a plan. I think it's wise to give some thought and consideration to your garden. But sometimes you're just going to run into things that you've not run into before, you haven't run into in a long time, so, I mean, I've had years where tomatoes have just not produced, and there are years like this one's probably going to be clearly, I think it's a numbers game, right? The best tomato season so far. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself because it's still pretty early. I still have another month and a half or so. But my tomato plants, they're healthy, they're producing.
Yeah.
And I'm really pleased with them. Now I'm trying to figure out if I have the best tasting tomatoes. Not so sure yet, because there's that.
Right.
But that's another story when it comes to trying out a few more varieties. But yeah, I mean, sometimes you have to accept the garden cards you're dealt, right? That's a part of us inserting ourselves in nature, right? So
right.
Sometimes you can influence it and sometimes not so much. Speaking of volunteers, it's not nearly the size of your butternut squash plant volunteer. But I have, it's the cutest thing. And if you're on Instagram, take a look at my profile where you can see some of the pictures I've posted. I think I've done a couple of videos. I have 2 cherry plant tomato volunteers that are growing. So the cage baby is literally just wood and wire. It's a cage that's been built that has doors on top of 3 garden beds that span the length of my backyard. And so the garden beds, the raised beds, are also wood, and they were just sitting on top of the native soil, right? So there's the concrete right on top of or right next to the concrete is the soil, and the bed sitting on top of it. So it's a small crack. And I saw it earlier in the season. Tomato plants, 2 of them, have just basically grown between the concrete and that wood bed. And I mean, you're talking about like to the common eye, you really can't even see the crack. But sure enough, tomato plants have grown. And I actually have red tomatoes. So they grew, flowered, produced tomatoes. And it's funny because someone commented on a video from last year that I did. And I was looking back at the video and I noticed like I could see all of the tomatoes. It was like in November that had dropped on the ground right where those 2 volunteers are. I'm like, I'm surprised I only had 2 volunteers. But again, I've done so much prepping and pampering around some of my other cherry tomato plants. And these 2 are just like, we'll take the water from the ground. We'll take the water from the concrete that drips on. Like, I'm not doing anything for them, So,
dude, I did nothing for that butternut squash. Yeah. Nothing. Yeah. I watched it when we had no rain and 100-degree heat. Every day wilt. Every day. I watched it. I said, I ain't gonna mess with it. I'm gonna see what it does. That bitch is just strong. So, I mean, So look. Did you see the watermelon I posted on Instagram that's growing right now?
Yeah, and I was like 23 hours late when I realized you were tagging me to say like, oh yeah, let me share your melons. And so I saw
share your melons. Yeah. So yeah. So first of all, I felt like a pervert saying share your melons, but we are gardeners, so and you can still share your melons with on there. Yeah. So, good. But that's a planned volunteer. Okay.
How do you mean?
What happened last year? That plant produces 50 to 100 pound watermelons. So last year I got like 2 50-pound watermelons out of it. It's just way too much, right? So I mean, I literally was just like, I don't even care. That was the first year for that wild bed, and the weeds were so high I just didn't even walk out there anymore. I would go out there and like harvest some, but I was like, man, I am not toting a 50-pound watermelon out of here. So I let it rot. And I said, you know what? I'm going to let it rot, and I want to see what happens. Well, you know what? It went all through winter, and guess what happened? It grew.
That's something, yeah.
So I might be working on a little scientific test this year.
Oh, here we go. Yeah.
I might be seeding my garden in, I'm going to seed one bed in wintertime to see if anything will grow. All the stuff that they say you can't.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it.
Well, that's my plan too. Yeah, I'm with you.
You know why? Like, I'm going to plant some tomato seeds out there.
Well, I'm not doing
in
that.
the wintertime. Why not?
Well, I actually...
No, why not?
Because I have a different plan for that same kind of method. It's my intention to actually get some of the veggies in the spring. Wait.
No. Why not, though?
I mean,
why not plant a tomato seed out there? I'm getting to a point.
Yeah, so. I mean, I guess it doesn't, that wasn't a part of my plan. I'm not saying I'm anti-plant a tomato seed in the winter.
Do you think it wouldn't work?
I hadn't given it any thought until just that moment you said it. So I don't know.
What do you think?
I don't know. I don't want to think. I think for sure it would work because I already have tomato plant volunteers that clearly the tomatoes were sitting there all throughout the fall and winter and sprung up in the spring, right? So, of course it'd work.
So why do you think that we're forced into thinking that we have to start seeds inside? That they will not survive if we plant them in the ground early?
I don't know if it's that, but it's a wait and see game, right? So would you do your entire garden like that?
No. I'm not going to do my entire garden, but I want to try it because it is a risk. And I mean, I'm not going to be like, oh, well, I'm not going to touch this garden, but I want to see if something grows. Yeah. But let me remember way back when we were talking about Jurassic-sized tomatoes.
Yeah.
How did they get planted?
Oh, poop.
Right, but when the poop came out or the fruit rotted, the seeds sat all winter, correct?
Whatever winter looked like during dinosaur times. But yeah,
but even still, if it wasn't for that, we would have like extinct plants and we wouldn't have anything. Like that butternut squash, for instance. That thing, those seeds, they weren't even in the compost pile. They were just laying in the yard since who knows how long. So it's a very interesting concept, and I'm curious to see the watermelon made it, so I don't see why anything else
Yeah,
wouldn't.
and those are, summer crops, right? Which is actually the most interesting. Yeah.
Notoriously so.
Oh,
and I mean, as of right now, the vines are 30 feet long. Yeah. So
there's a part of me that loves the idea of dropping seeds, sowing seeds, and then not having to deal with it in the spring or in the summer. Like, there's a part of me that loves that,
Yeah.
But there's also a part of me that's
I think it would be great because you could garden you could be working in your garden all year round for something.
Well, in part, yeah. But I think that the reason why it's intriguing, because you're right. For me, I'd be right on the end of kind of the garden season. So I'm still in a garden state of mind, if you will, versus kind of being cold, figuratively and literally, for months, and then getting back into the gardening, at the top of the year or something. So, so a
crazy.
part of what, and we'll probably talk about this, a part of what I plan to do, because I'm still in like full on like garden excitement, garden joy. But at some point there's a tiring that wears in. It happens every year. You get a little bit tired. You're kind of like, all right, okay, I've worked this land enough. So that normally sets in somewhere around October for me. But my plan is to really do an inventory, if you will, of what I have, and to get a good idea of what I want to do next year. But wouldn't that be a great time to say, okay, I'm moving my tomato plants next year. I'm going to go ahead and sow the seed right here now. You're still kind of conscious of where everything was or is, because it's still there. So yeah, I really like that idea. I'm not ready to jump in with you.
I don't think that tomatoes would be a good thing though, because they take so long to grow. Mm-hmm. I think that you would hinder. But other stuff that's like recommended to direct sow, I think that's what I'm going to try and do. Like, try and do a bed that's recommended for direct sowing, and then sow it.
But the only reason why it's not recommended for direct sowing in your area or mine is just because of the garden season and the time, right? We don't have enough time for a plant to go from seed to producing in the garden.
Well, it's still going to be the same way. Like, it's not going to grow in the middle of winter.
Yeah, that's my point.
It's going to be ready to grow in spring. But if I grew them inside and got them out, then they would be bigger and healthier and more ready to grow. So the question becomes for that cherry. Oh, man. Oh, God darn. What? Because now you know what you're doing. You're piquing my curiosity, and I'm a crazy woman when it comes to this stuff. So the question is for my 2 tomato plant volunteers. I attributed their size to kind of the space they have to grow. Those roots can only get so big. So the question becomes, if they were sitting in the middle of the garden, what would have happened? Because that space that I looked back on and saw all of those tomatoes that kind of had fallen off, had, rotted or whatever. Every place else, basically, I have cardboard and wood chips, like 3 inches of wood chips that are on top of it. That's why the tomato plants didn't volunteer in other spaces. That's a space where it did volunteer is a place where I didn't have it covered. So had I left that exposed, I wonder what would have happened, I guess. How big would those plants have gotten? I can tell you that I had volunteers one year from tomatoes left over from the year before, because I was like you and I got tired. It's like my first year starting this garden, and I only had like one small bed, and I was like, I'm just not really feeling it, and some stuff kind of fell off. And anyways, long story short, they seeded. And they got pretty damn big. It took them a while, but they started to get, I got full-size tomato plants out of them. Okay. So, yeah. I don't know. Yeah. But so speaking of melons, long-time melon lover, first-time melon grower. I love melons. You're inching closer to a rated R podcast. I can't help it. There is a bit of a setup there. So I started, let's see, sugar baby watermelons. I'm hoping to get one watermelon off of it. It's a mini watermelon. Dude, okay. park it right there. You're growing sugar baby watermelons.
Yeah, I am.
Are they puny looking?
They so far, they as in the one I have.
Fairy Morris sugar baby watermelon?
I'm almost certain it's Fairy Morris, yeah.
Yeah. F that. I'm not growing that anymore. That crap is the puniest watermelon plant I've ever seen in my life. No.
So interesting.
On,
so now I'm glad you mentioned that because I assumed my overplanting is the reason why the plant is pretty puny.
No.
You're thinking it's just, yeah.
No, that
sucks.
thing is weak, man. That thing is pitiful.
It's
the epitome of pitiful.
At this point, it's the size of my fist, if not smaller. The melon on the plant.
Melon?
And
you have a melon.
Yeah, I do have a melon.
Good for
Look
you.
at this. Yeah,
good for
now I'm
you.
worried, like, is that going to be it? Is it just going to be this size of melon? But the plant itself hasn't even climbed fully over the trellis. The other ones are just going, wow. So I have sugar baby melons and I have other watermelon seeds, but I intentionally planted that because I wanted kind of a compact melon based on the way I'm growing. I'm doing it vertically. I didn't want like some 20-pound melon trying to hang off of my trellis, right? But I'm also doing a couple of different cantaloupes, which it's crazy because I can really take or leave cantaloupe. But again, smaller melons, number of days to harvest was kind of in my window. But I'm doing...
Puny plant? Is it puny?
No, man. At this point, they all look the same. The watermelon plant is really distinctive, so I can tell for sure which one that is. But no, the cantaloupes, man, they're killing it. They're killing the game, man. Now, I'm also doing honeydew, remember? We don't need another soundbite of your reaction to honeydew melons.
No.
And for a while, I thought like, oh, well, maybe this won't be the year of the honeydew melon, but I did find one.
Did you?
Yeah. So I put the whole slingshot on it, to try to tie it to the trellis itself, to make sure like the stem doesn't break. And so it's at least one, but the all-star of the melons, and this is the only one I've harvested. So it's kind of like maybe your first kid. It's like, oh, you love it until the next one comes. No, I'm joking. So I have a mango hybrid melon.
Yeah. Have you tasted it yet?
Dude, I had it for breakfast with my collard greens. No, I'm joking. I actually had cereal for breakfast with the mango melon, and I had collard greens for lunch today.
Does it taste like mango?
No.
Yeah.
They never do.
They call it that stuff. Hold on.
It's marketing. No. I know. Oh, goodness.
It's because of the color.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good point.
It makes me mad. It's like, no, man, call it an orange watermelon. Don't call it a mango melon. Like,
yeah.
Don't give me that crap.
Not even the
like
shape or the color of the outer skin puts you in the mind of a mango. It's literally the flesh of the melon. But that could be any kind of, cantaloupe or a muskmelon melon. Is it muskmelon? Muskmelon? Either way. But it's delicious. I'm
not denying that.
To size, they're probably, I don't know, maybe I'm looking around to see if I have anything that's that size. They're probably, for those watching, the size of a paper towel roll. For those listening, you kind of know what a paper towel roll. So it's almost that long. They're sizable. I've actually harvested 2 so far. And you get like almost a casserole dish don't even ask why I'm using casserole dish as a reference, of melon from it. So
yeah,
I'm really pleased with it. Yeah. I'm saving some seeds from it. We'll see. I have some that I could use next year, but I'm saving it. I'm actually going to start a couple indoors to see if they germinate and grow, just so I know. Going
I need
to
do that with some of mine too, to make sure, because I didn't do the float test. So
I did the float test, and I actually ended up with like maybe a fourth of the seeds that drop down to the bottom, which means they're viable, and then the rest of them, they're just sitting up top. But it's a shit ton of seeds though from that one melon. So even with only getting some of them, it's still, I would have to plant all over my block to use all of those seeds. Yeah. So I'm working on that too. No, I'm checking. We're kind of, sort of. Maybe.
Yeah. It's interesting to have like a mango melon or something like that. But, it's like when you name it, it's like, come on, man, it's just an orange melon, And so does it taste like a watermelon?
No, it doesn't taste. It tastes more like it puts you more in the mindset of a cantaloupe, to be quite frank. So not as, you know,
it's that musky flavor.
No, that's what I'm going to say. It's not that musky flavor though. It's kind of like that's the piece where they injected the mango piece and removed the musk from it, or that kind of funk, you know, that cantaloupe normally has. But yeah, I mean, it definitely doesn't taste like a mango though. So on a different note, I have, not melon wise, but I have asparagus beans, long yard beans, and they quite literally are a yard. And another example of, like, I know what asparagus tastes like. I know what mango tastes like too. Doesn't taste like asparagus. It doesn't taste like your traditional green bean. But it doesn't taste like asparagus, you know. They're actually a pretty strong beanie flavor, if you will. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. It absolutely worked. Like, the marketing absolutely worked. The name of it is what drew me to it, because I haven't committed to growing asparagus just based on the commitment that it really is. And I said, okay, I can have a bean that's slightly different than the other beans I'm growing, and asparagus-like. Nope, that ain't it. So...
Yeah, I feel you. It's you know, you got to be careful, and like those sugar baby melons, like, nah, man.
Yeah.
I got a couple seeds left over. Actually, I got a fair amount. I'm just gonna throw them away. I'm not gonna grow that crap anymore because it's just pitiful.
Yeah.
You know, I've never seen. It took so long for them to start growing too.
Yeah, and that's why I thought
I was like,
the other melons had taken over.
To go fast.
Yeah. The other vines had taken over, and it was kind of like, oh well, you know, it germinated slower, you know, and then once everything sprung up and started to grow, it was just like trying to catch up. So
yeah.
I don't know
maybe
that
they had a bad batch last year.
Maybe so. I don't know that I'm going to look through my seeds and probably look for something that now I know that I'm going to weigh. That's what I didn't do. I'm going to weigh the mango melon. Now that I know that the trellis can hold that size melon. Again, I'm tying those melons up to the trellis, but it could still support that size. Now I'm going to compare it to some of the other melon seeds that I have to try to figure out like what's the next size melon that I can grow.
Right.
I was going to go someplace else, but
don't.
So what else is going on in your garden?
Oh, let's see. I got my cauliflower is hardening off right now. Hardening off. So I have cauliflower, Brussels sprouts hardening off right now. They should be ready to go in. I'm going to give them till the end of the week. And I have another batch of Brussels sprouts that I just moved out to start hardening off. So you know me and this Brussels sprout thing, I'm going to conquer them.
This is year 3 or 2?
Year 3 of a failed attempt. I came close this spring, but I came close. So
do you do anything different with hardening them off in the fall or prepare for the fall?
Same thing.
Yeah. Okay.
It's just the heat, you know, just getting them kind of used to the heat. So I have that. I got a bunch of stuff started inside. It's going slow. Yeah. My broccoli, man, I don't know. I'm thinking maybe my broccoli seeds were a little old. I'm not really sure, but they're taking their sweet ass time. Yeah. So, well, I'm probably I think I have to look at when I can transplant them outside here, but I'll probably start my broccoli seeds inside at Christmas time here. So I'm thinking at this point, my seed station in my house is just always going to be out. Yeah. It seems like, you know, and I don't really want it to be, you know what I mean? But it kind of is what it is at this point. Yeah.
So speaking of starts, I just wait for the September update before we talk about kale collards. And I just, you know, I'm working on it. I'm not defeated, although if you're watching this, my face looks as if I am. I'm just going to keep at it because at this point, I really want to know if I can do it going into spring next year. But anywho, I have some lettuce that's really I've potted up some stuff too already. So I have some lettuce that's doing really well, some romaine lettuce that I started on. Like it's about a month old basically, and I'm very comfortable with letting it grow inside a bit longer. I'll talk about our weather in just a minute, but I have some spinach indoors, which is just, you know, it's coming along. I did start some sunflowers. Don't ask me why. Maybe because I have a million seeds.
Yeah, I'm not going to.
Yeah. I started some more zinnias because I have some of them that are dying out in my garden. I wanted a little darker of a color kind of going into fall. I did bok choy, which I'm actually excited about because I didn't get it in the spring. I didn't bother to plant it this summer.
I wanted to do bok choy, but I can't find seeds anywhere.
Oh, you know what? Let me look at mine. I may have, if I have more than a package, I got you.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, hook me up.
But let me see, what else did I do? I did Claytonia, whatever the hell that is. It's more of a leafy, I think it's in the spinach family. And I did again start kale and cabbage, but the jury's still out on those. I think that's it.
So actually, let me stop you real quick. I do want to say something. I'm switching to growing heirlooms only next year. And I have a bunch of like Ferrymore seeds, big box store seeds, all bought this year. And I'm going to be doing a giveaway on my Instagram.
Oh, okay.
So you guys check it out. Cause I don't want to throw them out. And I just want to, give them to people that need them or whatever. So I'm going to be doing something like that. I got a bunch of them. So I just, I want to just move over to an heirloom varieties, and it's because I want to start saving seeds. Yeah. And with the hybrids, like you can, but you don't really know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
It could revert back to one of its parent plants or something. And I mean, who the hell knows what they're spliced with? So what, was used. So that's why there's nothing wrong with them except for the sugar baby melons. If you've ever been mean to me, I'll hook you up with some sugar baby melon seeds.
Yeah. I think over the coming years, as I purchase new seeds, I'm going to be going down the heirloom route as well. But I have so many seeds now where I'm going to continue to churn away. Because remember, this is maybe the fourth year or something that I've even grown with seeds. Historically, my garden has been
well, you're just getting started with seeds.
Yeah, man. I'm just, I'm a freshman, or maybe I'm a junior. I don't know. Maybe I'm repeating my freshman year 3 times.
On the subject of seeds, I did a test. And I planted some seeds in seed starter mix and some seeds in potting soil.
Okay.
And overwhelmingly, the potting soil has outperformed the seed starting mix.
Interesting. You think
overwhelming?
The more nutrients in the potting mix than...
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And I mean, when you do the seed starting mix, it's like it's real heavy on the moss. And I'm set. It's really expensive too.
Yeah.
So I think I'm good.
And again, being the very first year starting, I'm wondering about some seeds are pretty big, but some seeds are pretty small. Any thoughts on the size of the seed performing well in potting mix? It's just been across the board.
For me, with my hands as big as they are, small seeds are a pain in the ass. I mean, seriously. So, but no, as far as I can tell, I'm extremely happy with the potting soil.
Oh, it's a good find.
I know that, a lot of people kind of scoff at it, and I'm one of those. Got to get a seed starting mix. And I had never really used a seed starting mix until this year either. Never used one until this year, and I had a lot of problems. I did a lot of changes this year that I shouldn't have done.
Yeah. But now
like those damn wood chips.
Oh, well.
They're coming out.
Yeah, I'm still team wood chips.
They're not conducive for my gardening style. That's why they're coming out.
Yeah. And maybe even your gardening area too. Yeah.
Well, it's just the direct sowing aspect. It's not working for me because I just have to move them around so much. But I got plans for them. They're not going to waste.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I can dig it.
Walking paths.
Yeah, there you have it. I'm a big fan of it. So I have something late and breaking.
Oh gosh.
What's my bed count?
853.2.
All right.
You got a new bed?
So not new as in like I went out and bought something. So it's a 2x4 foot space. So it's uber small, all things considered, when it comes to the other garden beds that I have. But this is a space that's right next to my front porch. And for years and years and years, I've had daylilies there. And this is huge. This is me saying I dug up flowers. That silence was intentional. Like, that's not a thing I do, right? Yeah. So,
put in there.
well, no, that's the question mark. So, a couple of notes. It's on the other side of the porch. It's pretty shady there throughout the day. 2x4 space. So if you think about how a porch is set, right? So it's in that little nook, in that little spot, and whatever's gonna grow, if it grows up, it's gonna grow up against the porch. And I have lattice, so I need to be careful about stuff fruits falling, underneath the porch, and then I have all kinds of stuff growing everywhere. But anywho, I have pretty much committed to not growing flowers there, but I have so many ideas. 2x4 again is still all in all pretty small. I'm thinking I'm just going to do some fall stuff right there. But I thought about garlic, because at first I was like, I don't eat a lot of garlic. But then I thought, I'm always using minced garlic. I don't eat like whole cloves of garlic a lot. I don't use that in my cooking a lot, but I use a lot of minced garlic, especially at 1:30 in the morning when you're cooking squash. But anyway, I thought about like maybe that's the space if I cut back my okra plants next year. Put 2 or 3 okra plants. Whoever says 2 or 3 okra plants? I never say 2 or 3 okra plants, but that's a space for that. I thought, I could clearly plant some lettuce there, keep it clean, straightforward. Spinach, again, if you're thinking about the shady areas, like the possibilities are endless. Maybe not endless, but, I got some options. What are you thinking?
Team herb.
I didn't think about that.
Team herb, baby. And you got the garlic going. That's an herb, technically, kind of.
Yeah. My initial reaction to you and herbs, and this is just, I'm not normally this way. I'm a little bit disappointed in myself, but my initial reaction was to reject that.
Team herb.
Just off the cuff, right? That doesn't excite me. You're on to something, though, because I don't have an herb bed. I only grow herbs in containers. You're on to something in that it being a small, dedicated space. And I won't have to worry about, underwatering, which I struggle with now. So I'm not ready to commit, but that may be a better idea.
I can't wait until we do an episode about the garden changes for next year, the improvements that I'm making. Mm-hmm. I don't want to talk about them now because I'm not hammered in on them.
Yeah, they're not fully baked. Yeah,
they're in the oven. You know what I'm saying? And the timer is getting low, so I'm pretty excited. But herbs is a big part of it, so there's a lot of reconstruction that's gonna happen.
Yeah, I actually, I'm gonna top that. You won't be surprised the direction I'm headed in. So we'll talk more about that on a future episode. But I have some thoughts around kind of a different look and feel for the garden next year. So I think it was 895 beds.
Yeah, so we're at 896 now.
So we'll still be using 896 beds, but I think there's going to be something a little bit different. So yeah, it's that time of year too. This is the perfect time of year to get out there and really look at what you got cooking and say like, hey man, this needs to be changed. This doesn't, go out there, take your little cell phone, snap a couple pictures so you can kind of, in the wintertime, you can be like, okay, I remember what this looked like. Like, I completely understand this whole situation that unfolded in this garden bed. And like, I think that's, I highly recommend, especially if you're in the midst of it, no matter the size of your garden, and you don't have to publish it online, right? take a video of it. Talk yourself through what you're seeing and where, because even sometimes pictures, while I mean, it's a good reference, is better than nothing. A video of like, okay, this is what I'm looking at, you know, and these are your thoughts around it. I literally have a like little bitty like handful of a spot where I planted something. I don't know what the hell it is. It was an open space. And in my mind, I was going through how Batavia's mind works, like the logic I was using when I dropped those seeds, but I don't know what in the hell it is. Right. And I'm just like, I'm gonna have to wait until it produces, like, you know, it gets a little bit bigger for me to figure it out. And I said that to say, that was like a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. So if you think about trying to remember something and what you really thought about, you know, that leaf there or that plant there in 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. Yeah. Don't make it easy for yourself.
Yeah. Now is the time. Like if you're listening to this right now, pause this episode or take us with you and go look, because you'll be glad you did.
Yeah,
I really will, because it's really hard in the wintertime to think back and be like, what happened? Okay, yeah, I remember that this was growing here, but what is it? Did it do okay? You know, especially the bigger that your spaces get, it gets even harder and harder. Yeah,
so. In the front yard, in all seriousness, I guess I could count this other bed as another bed, but technically I started the season off with 14 garden beds, and this smaller one could be the 15th. But anyway, I have 4 circular beds. They're basically fire rings. So it's 36 inches around, and I have them really butted up against each other. And I planted a shitload of stuff in there. And I know better, right? I know that I planted cucumber plants and was foolish to think I was going to plant anything else around it. But I said in those couple of beds, like, I am dodging leaves and stems every time I walk. And that's the path that I walk with my water hose. And I'm looking at it now and saying, oh, you're totally going to remember that, no, this was too much in this area. These beds are bumping into each other. You have no clearance. I'm saying I'm going to remember that. Maybe somebody here will remind me, but chances are I'm going to get the better of myself next spring. Like, okay, all right, this is what I'm going to do, right? And I'll be right back here, you know, trying to figure out how to pull a hose through here. So yeah, I'm definitely going to do that myself. Because
it's hard, man. It's hard to, you know, and especially where you are, where things literally disappear in the wintertime. You know, for me, at least I can go out there and look at stuff, but it doesn't even, I mean, you know, all the perennials, they go away.
Yeah.
You don't know what's what. You don't know what's where.
That totally happened with my front yard flower garden. Like, remember, the whole goal is add a couple of perennials a year. And I totally did that. And I do better with spacing for flowers, because a lot of flowers like to be planted in clusters. It's the whole thing, right? So I do better with that, but I still, I even moved flowers, which I hardly ever do. I hate it. And then planted things pretty close together. And now I'm just thinking like, oh, next year this flower is going to get much bigger. I should have planted these, you know, 2 in this spot, and so on and so forth. So, I mean, I think that when I planted them, it was at the very beginning of the season. And even though I could see some of the perennials coming back from previous seasons, it still didn't. I mean, it's the size. Objects appear, you know, smaller than what they are. So yeah, definitely do yourself a favor. And even if it's you don't know what you're going to do with next year, just make a note of what you're seeing right now. You know, you could decide how much or how little that's going to be used next year.
So I'm going to switch subjects now.
Okay.
But first, we need to do the recipe of the day.
I have so much more to give.
No, featuring fruit.
Okay, all right. I'll sit back.
This episode is proudly brought to you by San Diego Seed Company, a company that is dedicated to providing organic heirloom varieties of seeds for your small urban farm. That's right, you heard me. You are a small urban farmer. You provide food for your family and share with your neighbors, and they are dedicated to providing you with the best seeds for a bountiful harvest. Check them out at sandiegoseedcompany.com or on social media at, you guessed it, San Diego Seed Company. Okay, So Batavia did it to herself, first of all. I was fully ready to come on here and give a pickle recipe. But she reminded me that we had to scrap an episode and I could reuse this one recipe from before. So she did it to herself.
I can't believe it. Always trying to help folks.
It sucks to be nice, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. So we are going to do a coconut grilled pineapple. So we take your pineapple, and first of all, if you eat pineapples and you don't have a pineapple core, you're not living life. So get the core. Am I saying that right? Core.
Let's go with it, yeah.
Yeah, you twist it in, and basically when you pull it out, you get perfect rings and no core. But you can cut it in chunks. You can do whatever you want. And I recommend soaking it in a coconut rum. So, and don't worry, I don't even drink at all. And when you cook it, it cooks the alcohol off of it and you get a slight coconut flavor. Mm-hmm. So, big wedges work good for this too. If you want to do like big, huge chunks or something like that, that'll work good. And you just marinate them for a little while and just make sure that it gets in there. And then you put it on the grill. And what happens is the alcohol that's on there, as it cooks off, it's sugar, right? So it caramelizes on top of the on top of the pineapple as well.
Yeah.
I do not recommend, however, going to the store and buying a coconut to use for your flavor, because every time we buy one, they always are rotten.
Oh no.
So yeah, but the rum does a good job of it. You can get crazy. You can use like spiced rums. You can do all kinds of things with it, but I prefer coconut rum. So
okay.
It's super simple. Make shish kebabs. Add that on there. Anything like that. It's really good. So nice, easy recipe.
Yeah.
Good thing about fruit recipes is they're pretty simple.
Yeah,
they're just hard to come up with.
I'm not gonna try it only because I have a pineapple that I need to cut up, and
you're not gonna try it because you have a pineapple you need to cut up.
No,
that doesn't make any sense.
I haven't finished, but I don't have coconut rum, and I am not going to the store to buy a single thing to make a recipe. It's over. It's done. I'm not gonna do it. Also, what I'm not going to do is underestimate my gardening ability. This is one more time that I've bought fruit because I wasn't sure about the melons. And guess what's happening? Melons are falling on my head. That's so terrible. And look, I have a pineapple from the store that I need to use, right? So same thing happened to me with the lettuce a while back. So, but yeah, I love the idea of grilling it. So back in the spring, I think end of May, I assembled my very first. Yeah, right.
The Avengers.
Attack! Yeah, my very first grill, gas grill. I've assembled grills before. And newsflash, I believe that I am handy, right? And there's some things that I'm pretty handy about. I actually have a handyman that comes and he really is complimentary about some of the things that I've done, as a handy woman. But there's some things that are kind of outside of my handiness ability. And this gas grill was very close to it. It took me most of the afternoon, and probably because at some point about 30 or 40 minutes into it, I dropped one of the key pieces in between the slats of my deck, and I had to remove the lattice and crawl under the deck to find it. It was just a mess. So anyway, I am forever trying to put something on the grill now because, the blood, sweat, and tears and splinters that I got putting it together. Yeah, so. And hey.
So you remember?
Don't write in about gas grills and how gas grills really aren't grilling. I don't want to hear it.
No, get over it,
everybody. I kind of
No.
believe it, but at some point I had to go with convenience. So here we are.
Yeah. No. Cook on a fire. Cooking on an open flame of any kind is grilling. Enough said. Yeah. I'm moving on. And the more you talk, the more time you waste on the flower talk that we're about to have.
Oh, wait. One question, though. So in Castaway.
You're just cutting into it.
Yeah, no. So Castaway, when Tom Hanks's character was building fire. I build fire. So was that grilling? Like, open flame?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
All right.
Why not?
Okay. All right. Just ask him.
Yeah.
I'll let him know.
So I have a few minutes before I have to go to the bus stop because school started here.
Oh, yeah.
But how are your flowers?
Gorgeous.
That bad?
No, man. I feel like I need to make my flowers smaller because of how beautiful they are. And I'm certain that what you're about to share, I just don't want to embarrass you when it comes to, my flowers.
No, dude, you remember I was talking about how my Vincas weren't doing anything?
Are they kicking butt now?
They're doing something.
Yeah.
They're not as big as I would like, but I'm pretty happy with them, man. It's a definite win on my part.
Yeah.
It's I've had a brutal summer here, and they've done extremely well. I mean, they've never looked bad. I never water them.
Yeah.
Which is what I wanted for that. It was like my plan executed accordingly. It's like I don't mind watering and stuff like that, but like I particularly didn't want to have to do much up there. It's like 103 degrees for like a week and a half straight, and like they never missed a beat.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty stoked about that.
I actually am ready to recommend the Vinca. I'm not it's not in my top 3 list, top 5 list, top 10 list. It's not on my top list. Just from an aesthetic perspective, it's a pretty flower. They love to be grouped together. But it is probably the lowest maintenance flower I have. And I have them tucked in a few different places. So yeah, really recommend it. Really low key, low maintenance. I am not exaggerating when I talk about how gorgeous my front yard flower bed is, primarily because of the zinnias and the hibiscus that are just kicking butt and taking names. However, everything else that I've planted in a pot, I hate. All right, I don't hate it, but I am so over watering these pots every freaking day. And the reality is I'm going to do it again next year because they are beautiful, but damn it. Like I you see those big, huge planters and they're expensive. And now I'm just thinking like I need to be putting some money under my mattress to save up for some of those because dude,
I'm not doing small pots next year. Now, I did have one in particular that was a pain in the ass. Every day it wilted. Every day. And then finally, I was like, hold up. I started thinking and I was like, let me get a little saucer and put under it and fill the saucer up with water.
Yeah.
Boom. Problem solved.
Yeah.
But I'm not doing small planters anymore. I'm 100% not going to do small planters anymore. It's only big.
I just have to be more strategic with where I put them. I have it's just a lot of work. It's difficult for me to have really big planters that I fill with dirt, with soil, and planting those, although that's the easiest to maintain. But it's hella hard getting them out of the weather. Like once it gets cold, some of those pots will crack if I leave them out in the winter. So it's kind of like the whole putting your garden to bed becomes like this big community project for me. It's like, So there's that. That's why small pots are so much easier for me to manage. And, the little wee things, they're cute, right? But shit. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just going to vent about it. I don't even know if I'm going to change anything. I'm
all set, man. I can't do it. It's too much. It's, those little pots, and especially in the heat that we have here, it doesn't work. I can't. Yeah. So from now on, I would rather have one giant pot than a bunch of small ones. But it's coming to that time of year where you can go get them on sale.
Yeah. So I'm trying to stay out of the stores too, because this is where it's dangerous for me.
Well, I go in there with a specific plan. I have an idea, and once it starts to cool off a fair amount, I'm in there, man. I got 2 big pots a couple years ago for 25 cents, and they were normally like $40.
Oh, wow.
They were just like,
that's crazy.
You might as well just giving them away, and I was like, yeah, I'll take them. There was only 2. I would have taken 50 if I had that,
Yeah.
But they still had to be watered, but they were only every other day. So if I could get on a schedule of an every other day situation, but my petunias are just about done. I kind of stopped caring about them though, because I'm like, you guys ruined my whole design idea because you're just way too prolific. Those super petunias.
Yeah.
I'm all set on those.
You hear yourself, you're complaining about a flower doing too well.
Yeah, well, no, it's definitely a valid argument though, because you have a specific design, and it's not like your tomatoes going crazy and you're just like, I get too many tomatoes. It's like literally I had a design in this pot with 3 different plants and it just overtook the whole damn thing.
Well, what do we say about mint, right? What do we say about mint when planting it?
It'll take over.
It's still the same idea of complaining about something that's really, really doing well when you don't want it to do that thing. So, yeah, I'm just giving you shit. I get it.
Well, you know what, though? It's not, because it's a hybrid. You know what I mean? It was made to do this. And it was my ignorance, because this is my first year with flowers. Like, I didn't realize that, like, now a hanging pot, I would for sure just put that in there because they would be hanging to the ground and it would look amazing. But
one quick note about that, though. So I have some hanging pots and some petunias in there because they are so prolific. Generally speaking, petunias will spread. They're not invasive, if you will, from my experience, but they will spread. And a couple of the issues, and I have this issue every single year, but I love them so, and they're so beautiful for like a month and a half. The thing I haven't been able to really get up the to do is pull the plant, like plant something else there. So those roots are going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. I have hanging pots right now that I'm even past the point where watering them every day isn't good enough, so those may have to go into a bigger space in general. We'll see. I'm not going to worry about it too much, but all of the color in the garden is starting to look a little bit different just because of the work involved with keeping that color watered. Greedy little bastards.
Yeah. We'll see, and that's the thing too. That shade garden I started? Yeah. It's completely weeded over at this point. So
that's too bad.
I can't even. Yeah, it is, but it's I expected it because I was like, okay, I'm gonna get this stuff in there, and I knew that I wasn't gonna be able to keep up with it. So next year I'll go back in and I'll mulch around there all those wood chips.
Yeah.
Guess where they're going. Yeah. You know what I mean? So. And I think it'll be really beneficial in that area because I will say this, I have not had to weed my gardens at all this year, barely, because of those wood chips. They do the job for that.
Virtual high fives for that, yeah.
Mega high five on that. So they definitely did the trick, but, I've definitely been battling that. And the big changes for next year are creating flower areas.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
No. It's fine because there's the reveal will be the design that we come up with. But there's going to be flower areas added, and it's no secret. We've been doing it, but...
Well, can you do me a favor?
Sure.
Can you take that sound effect that I just created? Because when we need to like bleep out something, I want to use that. And can you just...
You mean the new ringer on my phone?
Yeah, absolutely. You can find it in your Apple store. Yeah.
But, so it's been, my flower, I created a couple flower beds this year, and because of the heat and the watering situation, they didn't work out. So I just need to kind of revisit that and say, like, this is a spot for vincas. What else goes with vincas, and just kind of go that route.
Build on what really has worked. Yeah.
Well, what's really drought tolerant, it's like I need to look up what's drought tolerant and what's low maintenance. And, some areas I do want to work on and some areas I just want to grow.
Yeah.
I don't want to mess with them. I don't want to fight with them.
Yep.
So it's been definitely a learning year for the flowers, and I have not beat myself up over them at all because it's my first year with them. So I am the newest of the new flower gardeners out there. Of everybody, of all 11,000 people that have listened to this podcast at this very moment, I am probably the newest flower gardener there. So,
welcome.
And I'm comfortable with that.
Welcome. Yeah. We're here to support you.
Not a problem. So it's been interesting, and my sunflowers sucked, but I didn't really do anything crazy for them. I kind of just threw out some like birdseed sunflowers, which they're not going to be good. But it allowed me to look at them and say, you know what? I like sunflowers.
Yeah.
Like I would like to have some kind of sunflower here. Yeah. So it allowed me to do that. And that was a important lesson. So
yeah, it's not a fail. That's the only thing in the garden this year that I didn't get. Like second year growing sunflowers, I love them, and I do have some sunflowers in the front of my flower garden, on the street side. But it's just greed. It's like I want more of them because they're so gorgeous. But anyway, yeah. And the squirrels, because they're about 2 feet tall at the tallest. The squirrels haven't tackled them, so that's a good thing too. I'm
0% interested in staking sunflowers. I will say that 0% interested. Yeah. I am not willing to stake sunflowers. So
I'm willing to stake them.
That is something I hate staking stuff because the stakes break and it's more money, and it's like I had to stake up a zinnia after the hurricane. It got blown over. I didn't have any stakes. I went out there and I was like, here's a limb that fell. So I jammed a limb down there, Yeah. One of my tomatoes got so big that I had to, I took a shovel handle that had broken and jammed that in there. It's just like whatever I can do. Because there comes a point where it's like you're just managing problems.
Yeah.
And you've kind of moved past the whole like, okay, yeah, we can handle this. So that's kind of where it is at this point. We're just like, what can I do to keep it up for another month?
Yeah.
Your garden's not going to stay absolutely gorgeous year round.
Nope.
That's not going to happen.
I was driving away from the house, I think yesterday. And I was saying, like, I circled the block because it's, especially now, since I'm not doing a whole lot outside of the house now, you kind of see it at a certain angle. So when I drive somewhere, I want to make sure I kind of can get like that view that other people get when they look at it. And I was saying to myself, like, a month and a half, there are going to be some brown leaves around here. Like I was wondering, like, I wonder if I could turn this into something that's like fall-ish themed, which I'm not going to do, not this year anyway. But yeah, it ain't going to stay pretty for long. Or for always. Let me say it that way.
But we need it. You need the break.
Yeah.
So look, my camera battery is about to die.
I hear you.
And so I don't have to put up on the video my stupid face static. We need to cut it. You got anything to tell the people?
I am doing garden updates. Well, I should say garden tours on YouTube, so check that out. You'll see the front yard garden in August. We're going to do container garden, a separate video for that update. And then we're going to do a backyard tour. Because, you know how it is. 30 days ago, like what it looked like in July is way different. So check me out on YouTube there for those. And I'll do a couple of clips if you guys are on Instagram following me. Just a couple of shots of a couple of things that I'm really proud of. And some things I'm not so proud of because, I'm a transparent gardener. # transparent gardener.
Hey, you got to be. You got to be. Is that a hashtag?
I just made it up. Do you know nothing about me?
Well, it's like I use when I put my surfing photos up, gardeners that surf.
Not a thing.
There's nobody out there.
I love it though.
So look, if you guys surf and you garden, hit me up. The backyard gardener. I want to know. Yeah. I know one person that surfs that I know of. So
okay.
I'm not going to shout her out because I don't know if she wants me to. But if you hear this, hit me up and let me know, and I'll shout you out next time. But we're working on a TV show that will be available on a streaming platform close to you soon. I can't say much else about it yet, but stay tuned for that. It's going to be good. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah,
so,
I'm excited.
Yeah, I am too. We're having a lot of fun doing it, and that's why I've been quiet on YouTube because I can't focus on teaching on YouTube and doing this, so I need to put everything I have into this right now.
Yeah.
And hit us up on all of our social media spots, Backyard Gardens, Backyard Garden Pod, all that stuff. Show us some love. Tell your friends. Wear a mask. Be safe. Cook some pineapple soaked in rum, for God's sakes. I mean, come on. Take care of your gardens. Don't let them go wild. Stay strong. Start your fall garden. I got nothing else to say. We will catch you guys next time.
See ya.
Thank you for listening to us today. If you want to follow us on Instagram, you can find us at Backyard Gardens Pod, and we share gardening tips and clips from the show, and we would love to see your gardens and share them with everybody. So if you want to join us and you want to share your gardens, feel free to use the hashtag BYG Podcast. And if you want to see us on video, you can find us on YouTube at Backyard Gardens, where we have the full show and clips and all the recipes broken down for you. And until next time, learn to grow and grow for change, and we're going to call it a wrap.
Now you know why people feel like celebrating at harvest time.
All over the world, people have feasting and good times when the crops have been gathered in.